I am Katie Hardman, the Chief Opportunity Officer, COO of the Experience Brokerage Network, which encompasses all 4 of our brokerages across the state of Oregon. I'm also the team leader of Keller Williams Sunset Corridor and Keller Williams Capital City. So representing for the North this morning. And Leslie, who are you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm the general manager of our amazing Experience Brokerage Network and team leader of our Keller Williams Eugene Springfield location. So excited to be back from family reunion and back with our XBN family.
Yes. And so today we have a lot to talk about because a lot has happened since our last state of the industry. So we're going to have an amazing talk about what's going on in the mortgage world. We've got Jesse back with us today. And then we've got a really, really incredible panel of all women. I must have sent this out on Women's Day or something and just like was feeling all the good vibes there of women who went to family reunion and came back with some incredible takeaways and things that not only they are implementing in their business, but you can implement in your business. So today is about what can you do and what could you implement in your business in 2024 to make it a great year. So let's get started. I want to start by welcoming our 16 new family members to the Experience Brokerage Network. So welcome to all of these amazing humans who've chosen to partner with us in business. We're excited you're here and we are excited to be your partners in business. So if you see these names or these are people in your market center, give them a big hug or a high five or an elbow if you're not a touchy person, or wave and say welcome. We're excited you're here. I do also have 2 quick announcements. So last month we announced this, but we still have a couple seats. So if you are interested in Forewarn, we have talked about this many, many times, but I wanted to make sure you guys know that if you have been on the fence or haven't yet signed up, please send me an email if you're interested, katiehardman@kw.com, so that we can get you signed up. We have limited seats on our account. So the sooner you let me know, the sooner I can secure your seat. But this has been an incredible tool for verifying identities, looking up criminal history, confirming financial data, and validating current assets. So if you want an extra little tool, it's $12 a month or $120 a year, and it's incredible. So
Katie, just so, because I might have jumped the gun, do you still want them to fill out that Google form that I dropped in the chat box, or would you prefer them to email you?
Either way, if you have the link and you're filling that out now, that goes to my email. So it's like emailing me. So either way, fill out the form, send me an email. I look forward to getting you all set up. Now, the other thing is you have probably received multiple emails and multiple text messages from Energage, which is a company that the Oregonian has partnered with to do an anonymous survey. And if you've been on these state of the industries or if you've been with the Experience Brokerage Network for any amount of years, you know that the last 3 years we've ranked in the top 3 as a top workplace in the state of Oregon. And so we're in the running for the 4th year in a row. But more important than that is the way that we can improve and continue to be a place that no agent wants to or has to leave is by your feedback. So you're going to receive an email if you haven't already filled out the survey. If you have, you're going to stop getting the emails. But if you haven't filled out the survey, then on the 22nd of this month, you're going to get another email. And I'm not forcing you or not telling you have to fill this out. Definitely put all transparent information in there. One of the questions is, were you forced to fill this out, is why I'm saying this. But we would love your feedback. So please, please, please take a minute when you get that text and email and give us your feedback so we can make changes that make this a better place for you, as well as maybe be a top workplace again.
And Katie, just one more thing, you guys. We know that the email says employee survey reminder. Please forgive us. We do not control the Oregonian or the titles of their emails. We know that you're amazing business owners and independent contractors. The email is meant for you, even though they're using their language, not our industry language, because this is a survey that covers all industries in the state of Oregon. So make sure that when you see it, you know it still applies to you and your opinions are valuable.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. We have asked many times for that to be changed and they say no. So it is what it is. Okay, now For the real stars of the show, Jesse, thank you for coming back for another State of the Industry. And I'm going to hand it over to you to give us a little update on what's going on in your world, what's going on in the mortgage world. Tell us what we need to know right now.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm going to nerd out a little bit here, if you guys don't mind, on what's happening in the market, because it's an interesting time, right? We've been talking about rates dropping, and everyone's kind of waiting for this mythical rate drop. And gosh darn it, it's just not happening. So we're going to talk about why for a few minutes, and then I'll talk to you about a couple of programs people are using in a constrained inventory environment in this market that are helping. First, though, I wanted to introduce Dan Sweeney. Dan, you out there? Oh, yeah, I see your tile. So Dan is our amazing regional manager for Envoy Mortgage, and we are your business partner. I am the president of Envoy. I guess I could have introduced myself. I've been on doing this so often, I don't realize there are 16 new people probably that don't know me. Dan is our regional manager for Envoy Mortgage, and he is working with Michael Popno and Chris Swanson, who are the loan officers associated with your organization, to just make sure that we're bringing maximum value to you. So I wanted to make sure you all got to see Dan, and he's available. Dan, if you don't mind, can you throw your email address and cell phone number into the chat for us?
Sure, will do.
Awesome. Okay, let's get down to business. And feel free to use the chat. I know it's a pretty large group, so there's probably not a lot of chatting that goes on over the microphones. But if you have any mortgage questions, throw them in, because it's like I said, it's a strange time for mortgage these days. All right, there we go. You should see my screen. Let's talk about what happened, and you all probably heard about this, but over the last 2 weeks, we had our February jobs report, and yesterday we had our inflation report, right? As a reminder, and remember, I told you I was going to nerd out a little bit, so stick with me, because this matters when it comes to conversations with your buyers and your sellers. The jobs and inflation, those are the two things that drive interest rates for us, okay? We're watching them very closely. We expected, if you had joined us in December, I told you in the first quarter, interest rates are probably going to drop. That was based on the expectation that unemployment would increase, so the job market would soften, and inflation would continue its downward trend. Fast forward 2.5 months, that hasn't happened. So here's the data that came out. Anything red is bad for interest rates. Anything green is good for interest rates. Non-farm payrolls, NFP, right? The number of new jobs created was 275,000. We expected 198. Good news, unemployment was up a little bit, 3.9. It's under 4%. When it starts going over 4%, we could see some significant changes in rates, but it was a little higher than expected, which is good news. Bad news for the unemployed, obviously. Remember, mortgage folks are always in this weird spot where we like bad economic news because it lowers interest rates and increases the number of buyers. Wage growth was green. And then there was one other green report, and I don't want to get into a political discussion about how this all works, but January non-farm payroll was revised down 167,000. So that means that big payroll report we got that pushed rates up 0.5% was revised down. Why this happens, I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate, but it's frustrating. The end result was last Friday, we had about 0.1% in rate improvement, which is good news. Fast forward to Tuesday, okay? Well, let's pause here for a second. What we are looking for is we're looking for the number of new jobs to decrease, and we're looking for unemployment to increase in order to get better rates, okay? So when you have buyers that are waiting for rates to drop, the reason this matters is because our economy is still very strong. We haven't talked about gross domestic product. GDP is still very strong. The economy is still in very good shape, which is a surprise to most of us, okay? So inflation, gosh darn inflation, right? Inflation, monthly inflation was up 0.4%, more than expected, bad for rates. The annual inflation rate was up 3.2, more than expected. Core CPI, so that eliminates like super volatile energy and food, right? That's just the core, was up 0.4 and 3.8, which was more than expected. So a lot of bad news, relatively bad news on inflation yesterday. Thankfully, interest rates were only up about 0.1%. So all of this news and all this information and all this chaos over our big economic reports, and interest rates are about flat. Okay. So here's how I want you to think about this with your buyers and your sellers for that matter. Chairman Powell, look at these three headlines. These are from yesterday. Okay. And this is what our clients see that don't watch this every single day. Powell says Fed's close to evidence needed on inflation to cut interest rates. And then Fortune says, moving more sideways than down, it could keep the Fed from cutting rates. And then Reuters said, Fed is on hold until June. These are three different headlines, and you don't know which headline your buyer is consuming. We have a lot of folks right now that have said, we don't like rates in the sevens. We're going to wait. And we want to be able to communicate with them clearly, what's going on. So be aware of these headlines. Let me show you our rate chart. Here's the message on interest rates. Number one, good news. Rates are 1% lower than they were last October. Rates are 1% lower than they were last October. So when someone has a rate objection, I want you to point out that rates are better than they were. I want you to write this down for me. And I've kind of pulled my slides out on this, but it's important. For every 1% drop in interest rates, your buyer can afford a 10% larger mortgage in the same debt to income ratio category, right? And their mortgage payment, or I should say their mortgage payment, drops by about 10%. Okay. There's some nuances to all of that, but that's what you need to plan in your head. So your buyers today can afford 10% more house than they could in October, first part of November last year. 10% larger home, larger mortgage. Okay. That's one piece of positive news. The second piece of interesting news is that rates have traded sideways for, I think we're in our 9th week, that we're right around the 7% mark on the average 30-year fixed. Okay. The big question I get asked is what's going to happen next? Until there are major changes in our economic forecast, right? Until there are major changes in inflation and the jobs report, we are probably going to trade in this range. I would expect, prepare your clients for interest rates to trade in this range. There is a small chance that they will go up. There's a slightly larger chance that they just stay flat, and then a very small chance that they drop over the next couple of months. Okay. So what that means for our spring housing market is that this rate profile is kind of what we get. And I want everyone to have their head wrapped around that. If you have a bunch of people sitting waiting for things to get to 6%, we need a new strategy. We need a new strategy. Okay. So on Mondays, you should be receiving our email. We get the roster, we upload it. Hopefully you are. That comes either from myself or Michael or Chris. It's kind of the market spotlight. And we will let you know where rates are going. There's the picture of this chart is in there. And we will be able to, you'll be able to just have an idea of where things are at from our perspective. Now, the reality is nobody knows. You're right. I'm not a rate expert. I just simply put headlines up on the screen and show you what's happening. What we want to do is we want to help people really understand the broader market picture. Okay. And that broader market picture looks something like this. Maybe if my slides will bounce. Applications were up 9.7% last week. Okay. That is following a 5.6% reduction. So buyer demand has increased. I know in your markets, you are mostly inventory constrained. So that means the competition for houses will increase. I mean, a 10% increase in purchase applications is pretty significant, team. So you want to think about that when you're talking to your buyers. The messaging is really, hey, as we see more loan applications, we're going to see more competition for houses. So you need to move quickly and efficiently. You need ready, willing, and able buyers. Inventory ticked up slightly. This is a bit of a surprise. We're actually 19% above last year, which is good news. And then price reductions, also a surprise, increased slightly. Price reductions on existing inventory ticked up to 30.5. We are at a spot right now in our market where we're kind of at a turning point, okay? There is a chance that home prices could soften just a little bit over the next couple months as we enter the spring. But what you want to do is you want to make sure your buyers realize that with the spring comes more competition for constrained inventory. For your sellers, we want them to be aware that they need to watch interest rates, okay? And let me just show you I'm going to show you a quick picture here, and then I'll let you go because I'm just about at my time because we have some awesome guest speakers. When rates drop from 8 to 7%, this is the percentage increase of purchase applications. Purchase applications spiked up. When rates climbed a little bit, purchase applications dropped. So for your sellers, depending on what happens over the next couple weeks, we could see far less buyer demand if rates go up. And they just need to price thoughtfully. They need to be thinking about using seller incentives. Like we have the lender paid 1.0 buy down, which reduces your interest rate by 1% for the first year. And then look at this inventory. I mean, inventory is flat. It's up just a little bit, but inventory is relatively flat, still 50% below. It's 19% above last year, but it's still 50% below pre-COVID levels. So when rates drop, buyer demand increases, right? We're seeing this very clearly in the numbers. We are at a high level of sensitivity to interest rates right now in our market. Rates drop, buyer demand goes up. When buyer demand goes up, we're going to see higher prices. So continue telling that story to your buyers. On the interest rate front, most economists still believe that we will see the Fed begin to cut rates at some point this year. Whether it's in June or September, we're not sure, but it's definitely not March. In December, when I was here, remember I told you, hey, good news. The Fed is scheduled to cut rates 6 times. Well, it's not scheduled, but the market expects the Fed to cut rates 6 times. That number has been reduced all the way down to 2. So we're likely in this interest rate range. You need to make the most of it, and you need to make sure you're telling the right story to your buyers and sellers. And keep an eye on the next couple of weeks. I mean, what happens with interest rates, if rates drop down into the 6% range, we will see a massive spike in buyer demand, and we will see prices start rolling. If rates go up to 7.5, buyer demand will decrease, right? And this is like economics 101. So you're all sitting there going, come on, Jesse. But it's important that you communicate this thoughtfully to all of your prospects so you can create higher level of conversions and make sure people are making the right decisions that you're working with. Okay. That's it for me. I'm at my 10-minute mark. I'm out. Got a lot more we could go get into. We'll do that next month.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jesse and Dan and Chris in the chat for answering those questions. If you guys have more questions for these guys, reach out or put it in the chat. They may stick around for a few minutes. But always great information. So thank you for making us smarter humans today, Jesse. I appreciate it. Okay, so now I want to introduce this lovely panel of powerhouse women who attended family reunion. We got in our steps, you guys, like at least 10,000 a day. So not only do we feel like we could run a marathon, but they also heard some amazing content at family reunion. And if you've never been to family reunion, it's our national convention, Keller Williams National Convention. And there's always a couple things that happen. There's always an inspirational speaker. And this year we had 2. We had Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins. There is always a state of the company and a vision speech, which is when Gary Keller talks about what's happening in the industry. And this year he actually gave some predictions. And then there's always at least 200 breakout sessions where it's specific topics that you can go and hear from experts or people who are doing that thing at a really high level. So you're dead set on open houses being the way that you grow your business, then you can go hear from open house experts. Or if you're growing a team, you can go hear from people who are scaling and leveraging at a high level. So all of these individuals went and heard the presentations from Gary and Mel and Tony and these breakouts. And so I've asked them to come and share with you guys some of the biggest takeaways that they've had. So Dana, Mary, Sarita, and Teri, thank you guys, for being here today. And thank you for agreeing to share some of your biggest takeaways. I thought I'd start with like learning a little bit about you. So if each of you could just tell me, and I'll stop sharing my screen so we can actually see your faces. Tell me a little bit about your business. How many times you've gone to family reunion, and like what was your focus going to family reunion this year? So Mary, you're the first person next to me on my screen. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So Mary Gilbert with Mary Gilbert Group. I have a team of 11 agents, and last year we finished out with 190 units for like 71.5 million in volume. So great team effort last year. So I think the first time I went to a family reunion was probably actually 2016. And that might have been right when I joined Keller Williams or right before I joined. So there was an exploratory period for me. And I honestly haven't kept track of how many times I've been to family reunion, but so I did come this year. I wanted to just see, I feel like the industry is rapidly changing, and I just, there's always the basics. There's always the things that you build your business, but as far as like the industry and consumers and technology, I wanted to kind of see what that was all about.
So almost what's new? Like what's going on now?
What's new, but it always boils down to not so new. So do you want me to share like what I started with, or do you want to do introductions with everyone first?
Let's get to know everybody, and then I'll circle back for like
perfect.
what were some of those things. So Dana, tell us a little bit about you.
I have to find the unmute button. I'm Dana Burk. I'm a real estate broker. This is my 21st year in real estate. My husband and I have been a team, and we just added Jameson to our team, and we have an assistant. So our volume last year was down quite a bit, but typically we sell between 5 and 12 million in real estate. And I mean, I went because I wanted to see my first, so I joined KW in 2017, and I went to family reunion in 2018. So, and I've gone almost every year, except of course, 2020. Well, I went to 2020. That was like a super spreader event. Almost everybody came back sick except me. I didn't, but this time I did. But I mean, it's amazing to see how you cannot fathom how many people are in that room when they do the keynote speaker or when Gary comes on stage, unless you've been there. It's just, there's 20,000 people in that room, and it's amazing, and the energy is amazing, and nobody can fathom that unless they've been there. I mean, they just can't imagine that many people in one room all excited. And
oh, go ahead, sorry.
And I went because I'm part of the real estate planner team. I'm a certified real estate planner, the only one in Salem. And that group is an amazing group of individuals that come from contribution to their clients, and that's why I went.
To build community. I love that. Sarita, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarita Dua from Portland, Oregon. I joined Keller Williams in 2010. And just like you, Dana, this is my 21st year. I got licensed in 2003. I have a small team of 4 agents. 3 are showing agents and 1's a full agent, and a listing manager and a virtual TC. We actually were, we've been down from kind of where my best year was kind of 2017, and I've been down since then. But last year we did about 43 million, a hair under 70 transactions, and we miraculously beat 22. We really didn't have a great 22. And I went with a focus. So I've been to family reunion every year. I'm always going to go. It is overwhelming. I almost feel like I have to train for it physically, not only the steps, but just like my sleep patterns, because when I do something, I go all in. And so even if you're not like a big partier or whatever, like I want to go to all the things and meet all the people and connect with people. I sometimes offend Portland people because I'm like, we can have dinner in Portland. I want to make sure I meet people from across the country and around the world. And so I went with an intention of understanding the vision speech and the statistics. So I'm excited I got that. I also wanted to be really aware on how to improve my listing business. So I took sessions that were focused on listings. And although Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins, which we'll talk about, were like inspiring speakers that I knew wouldn't be recorded, like to me, they were gravy. I know a lot of people were like, I'm going to go because I want to see Tony Robbins. I loved those sessions, but I was really interested in hearing about the lawsuit, the settlement, what the industry is going to look like, and what it means for predominantly buyers agents, as well as kind of the statistics in the market moving forward.
I love that you had a laser focus of like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get these things. And sometimes that's the best because you get your content instead of like hoping or wishing or coming back going, well, it kind of touched everything.
I'm going to misquote, but I think there was something like 212 sessions.
Yep.
So you really do need to have a game plan, because every time block, there was fewer sessions in terms of windows. Like I think there was 8 slots or something. And so every time you had like 30 or 40 choices. So you had to have a plan.
Yeah, I love that. And Teri, tell us a little bit about you. Oh, do we have Teri? Technical difficulties?
Yeah, Teri, you'll just need to unmute. Oh, we got her. We just need a sound check.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about
There
that.
you are.
Okay, I'm Teri Dibos, and I'm in Eugene, Springfield, and I have a team of 4 agents, and we have a virtual TC and an office manager and a stager, because we do staging along with our real estate work. So I love going to family reunion. I love meeting the people, hearing new things, hearing old things I've forgotten. It's a really neat way to energize my business, because I come back sharing all of this with my team, and we implement a few new ideas as we go. And so everything about family reunion is important to me. This year I was actually in a walking boot, and so some of the physical endeavors of family reunion were a little more difficult. Though I did have a scooter, and I got us front seats for all the big shows. But it was still worth going, even though it was a little harder than usual. So
I love that. And what was your focus this year? Like, what did you go to this family reunion hoping to get out of it?
Mostly I wanted to know more about some things in command. You know, I don't use command very often because I have people that do that. And so I just focus on my job. But I'm, you know, started to hear things that command can do, and new things that might be helpful. And so I thought I probably should look back into this, because the last time I looked at it, those things weren't available or not working. So
Yeah,
so I did a lot around the systems that we can use. So that was my focus.
So what I love about, and this wasn't planned, but each of you went with such a different focus. And I'm hoping we get to hear from you, like different things that you took away from the 4 days that we were there. So let's jump into those questions, or that question is, and we'll start with you, Mary. Like, what sessions stood out to you, or what were some ideas that you learned, or topics that you walked away with that you are looking or going to implement in your business, or maybe already have?
Yeah, so I'm going to back up a little bit, because I actually went to CEO Summit. And so I actually was like, I'm always looking for things to implement like every week, right? But I think this is one of the biggest reasons I joined Keller Williams, is because I think we all grow like huge businesses, and we all get wrapped up in this inside of those businesses. And then I hear, you know, the biggest problems that we're trying to solve is like work-life balance. And we forget why we're waking up every day. And so, so I went to the CEO Summit that was actually on Sunday before the actual, you know, that was pre all the events and conferences and stuff. And the Gary Keller started off with the Life Force Roadmap. And so I haven't seen this before. I've actually seen it in different aspects from different coaching that, you know, and personal growth that I've done, but it was a life force roadmap. And I just want to share this with everyone, right? Because your business, you have your business, that's your database systems and your admin team. And then there's how you feed your business, and those both work together. I'm not going to go into all the details because it was probably a couple hour session, right? And then there's your life, right? What is your mission, vision, values, and beliefs in your life that you wake up for every day that's going to drive you and give you energy? And what are the relationships that matter most? And so I just want to share Gary Keller's life force thoughts, because this is how the session started, and then it kind of set the tone for like everything that I showed up for the rest of the week. And so his life force thoughts were, I'm just going to read this and I'll try to get it to you guys later. Life force thoughts: master a few things, life is big. Try to master everything, life is small. Follow a hard plan, life is easy. Follow an easy plan, life is hard. Focus on what matters, you'll have few regrets. Focus on what doesn't matter, you'll be full of regrets. Lead a full life and your life will be fulfilling. And I just think, like, I know I'm not the only one that sometimes you get on your hamster wheel and you're focused on business, leads. And then you start making decisions that maybe don't really matter. And I think if you can focus on what does matter and make decisions around that, your life is going to be a lot more fulfilling.
I love that, Mary. And one of the things you started to say at the beginning was like, we're always going to learn something new every week. Like we tune into State of the Industry. Like we're on these calls, like we want to learn something new and grow. And being entrepreneurs, there's always this drive for growth and more and bigger. And yet like focusing on why that's important or what about that, and focusing on the few things to make your life big.
Right. Well, and how, focusing on what matters in your life and how business will fuel that for you, right? It's changing the priorities. Here's what I want to focus. Here's my vision and mission in life. Now, how does my business fuel that? I think we get so focused on, I want to beat what I did last year. I sold this many units. Now I need to sell this many more units, right? Or I got to be number one in my market center. And when you finally get to, oh, I do become number one, and you don't have the vision and mission and values that's driving that, then it's like, okay, what's next, right? But I think this is what drew me to Keller Williams, is that everyone lives, the focus is on having a purpose-driven life. And it's like, you can make all the money in the world, and making money is not a bad thing because for all the good that it can do. And so just having that vision and mission first, and then having your business fuel that.
Man, what a way to start the week with those words to kick it off and give you focus to, okay, there's a million things going on the next 4 days. What are you going to narrow it down to? Like, what are you going to focus on that's going to make the biggest impact on your business so that you can live the life that you've chosen or that you want to live? Thank you for sharing that. Dana, what about you? What sessions spoke to you or stood out, and what did you take away from those that were implementable? You're muted.
Tony Robbins is always good, and so is Mel Robbins, but we had a pre-function that the real estate planner community had, and it was mastering the art of persuasion. And Jennifer Love spoke in there, and she talked about doing the things that's your one thing, that is your inherent, what you like to do thing. And so I haven't figured out my wording on that yet, but I'm working on it with another gal that was in the same class, and that was just amazing. And it's getting back to what your core branding for that is going to be, and then making that part of your life. I do spend a lot of time in the senior world because my mom has dementia, and that's a lot of my passion, and it's going to continue to be a lot of my passion. So that is my world.
You know, Dana, that is fascinating because mastering the art of persuasion, you've got to believe whatever it is that you're going to go do. And so getting back to doing what you like or what you're passionate about and the reason why will fuel you to be able to do more of that, would be my understanding of what you're saying. Is that?
That's what I'm saying. And because if you're doing what you're passionate about, you're doing what you enjoy doing, and it's not work. It's fun.
I love that. That's something that we should all think about. Thank you for sharing that. Sarita, what about you? What session stood out? What have you implemented or?
I'll make sure I don't take the whole time because I have so much that I feel like I walked away from. But I think the first thing I jump into is the vision speech. I am a numbers nerd. I wanted to hear the numbers, and similar to Jesse's graph, I think we've all been waiting for good news, right? And like the human brain does not like unknowns. And the truth is, not much is going to change. And that actually felt comforting. Like there's not going to be this major, we're not going to see rates go to 3%. We're not going to see these like any kind of huge inflection point that's going to change our day-to-day life. This is acceptance. This is our reality. Gary said during the vision speech, a good recession would set everyone up in this room for a good decade. And, you know, a few of us have been around a couple decades, but for those of you who have not, who've been in real estate, say 2017 and newer, like hard times, they suck. And honestly, for 20 and 21, we all made a lot more money than like for a pandemic. Like we're one of the industries, mortgages and realtors, that did better than kind of the rest of the country. And what goes up comes down. So I love that vision speech. I went to the vision speech. I understood the data. I listened to it again. I audio recorded it. And then I went to a session called Inside the Vision Speech to really understand it. My work crush is Ruben from the analytics department because he's just the data guy. And I just walked away understanding the numbers. The other aha I have is, I think from taking bold about 10 times, we're kind of trained of like in my head, I'm a realtor, right? You know, like those TikToks, you know, I'm from New York or I'm a realtor. This is what I do. I look for people that want to buy, sell, or invest. And that's actually not the case anymore. With the rates being as low as they were, mobility is at an all-time low. People have moved. They called it the Great Migration of 20 and 21, and they're not moving as much anymore. They'd remodel or just sort of settle rather than pay 5% points more for a new mortgage for a different house, because you do trade one set of issues for another. So my conversations around sellers and buyers are like, what are your plans and how can I help? A lot of it's talking about remodeling. It's talking about resources I may have. We're true advisors for them, as opposed to, let me just go find the buyers and the sellers. Because having that conversation is what makes you be their trusted advisor. And then when they do need to buy or sell, or in many cases, they're a referral source for you for other buys and sells. That's sort of been a subtle shift for me of like, I want to talk to them about meet them where they are, as opposed to, if they don't want to buy or sell a house, what's next? Let me go find the next person. So that's been a shift, and that became very clear to me from the data. With regards to listings, I'm realizing, it was Jeff Glover's session, that you work for what their goal is and you work backwards. So if they want to like actually be in their next house by school starting like in August, well, okay, that means they have to write an offer in July, which means we have to have their house sold by June, which means we have to list based on days on the market by May or April. And oh, by the way, we have 2 or 3 weeks to go prep the house because they've not maintained it ever. And so when you work back, we realize we're already late. And so if we can kind of understand what their timeline is and start working backwards, many of our sellers think they have time because they have till the summer. But when they actually, and I used obviously just an example, and doesn't have to always be like they have all those things to do. But the truth is, when you do work backwards from a goal, you realize that you actually might be behind and you don't have as much time as you thought. The other thing I'm doing with sellers is I'm getting listing agreements signed right away. With low inventory, the odds of giving them a price opinion and saying, okay, well, like I have a seller right now. They want to actually list in June. The list date's going to be June. I'm like, well, let's set the price now. Let's sign the contract. And then as we get closer, we can tweak the price if data changes. But I want to, you know, book the photographer and measure the home and do all these things. And I do need that signed commitment, because guess what? They may talk to their neighbor, and that neighbor may want to buy the house, and you've just given them the CMA. And now they're doing an off-market deal because the inventory is pretty low, right? And so make sure you work with sellers. We're going to do a lot of work. To me, a listing is launching a project, right? And try to get that commitment earlier than later, because I'm seeing a lot of activity with off-market. And so that's one great takeaway I got from that session that I've actually implemented since I've been back. And I think the last one I'll do is a softer one, but I was trying to come to you today with like tactics that you can apply right away. The Mel Robbins speech, many times, you know, she doesn't, like, we won't probably see that on KW Connect, but if you download her TED Talk and Google 5-4-3-2-1, 54321, you'll find her talk, and it's very similar. Her talk just talks about anytime you need to do something hard, just like count to 5, 5-4-3-2-1, do it. I mean, being from Oregon and having a husband that works for Nike, it really is just do it. The minute you're already thinking about doing something hard, your brain's already decided to do it. And now you're talking yourself out of it. And so do the hard things. One of the things that's just even a softer takeaway from Mel Robbins is she picked this girl from the audience who wanted to meet her, and she brought her up on stage. And this girl, she was in her 20s, this young gal, was so excited to meet her hero. She was literally shaking like a leaf. And one, you know, there was whatever, 20,000 people there, right? There was a lot of people. It was actually a stampede to get into Tony Robbins and into Mel Robbins. In that, like, everybody that might have skipped sessions kind of tried to go to that session. And there's like, well, let's just say 20,000 people watching. At that moment, it was just her and that girl. And we have the power for our clients to just be like, they're the only person in our world and we're the only person in theirs. The way she connected with her and the way, and you could tell she was super nervous. And then she did some exercises with her to make her less nervous. And she absolutely was less nervous. You could see the transformation and how she got her confidence. She even took a selfie with her at the end. But I just kind of walked away with, like, we are so busy that we barely connect with our database. And then when we do, we're like looking at our phone or just distracted. Just make people feel like they're the only people in your life and be 100% present in what you do. It was that with the 5-4-3-2-1 was just really great inspirational message, I thought, for me.
Sarita, all of those things, like, I have so many thoughts, and those were all really good takeaways. One of the things, and I'm hoping you can help me with this, that Mel talked about was like, well, and Tony, like, everything you do is energy. And so when you have feelings around something, like you're anxious or stressed or nervous, that's energy. And she talked about, like, because you care. And so, like, by saying 5-4-3-2-1, like, it gives you the opportunity to, like, shift that to, I'm excited to get up today, or I'm excited to do this thing, and shift that energy from anxious or stressed into, like, action. Do you remember when she talked about that?
Yep, absolutely. And you nailed it. I mean, that was a great takeaway. I think I'm always telling my kids, I have kids in their 20s. I'm always telling my kids, like, obviously bad things happen, like death and despair. Like, there's bad things in the world, but almost everything that's a negative, beyond like some of the most extreme things, there's a positive. And like, how do you shift your thinking? So like, you get in a car accident, even it's it's a horrible thing, but it's like, well, at least I'm alive. At least I didn't get hurt. At least it wasn't worse. At least nobody was in the car or whatever. Your brain can find ways to flip it to the positive. And I think that's what you're talking about with energy, which is like, you get to control how you look at it, and you can flip it around to what's the positive of it, and it changes your whole outlook.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing I just wanted to circle back on was when you said, like, there's comfort in the vision speech when you hear that things aren't going to change this year. We don't have to learn a new skill this year. We don't have to pivot for the 20th time. We don't have to try and like make a new course. Like we can stay the course, we can run the play, and we can dive deeper. And I love that you went to multiple sessions and have listened to the vision speech multiple times, because sometimes I feel like we go to those sessions and we fixate on one slide or we fixate on one number. But if we're really going to be the advisor, like you're saying, for your clients, there's magic in understanding the holistic picture so that you can advise in the appropriate way for that specific client. So digging deeper into that vision speech, I think is really cool that you did that.
I just want to drop one last thing, which is not as positive, but I want everyone to hear it, is like, this is not lollipops and rainbows. This is going to be a tough time because nothing's changing, because rates are high, because affordability is out of reach for a lot of people. We're going to have to do 2, 3, 4, 10 times the work to find the people that need our help. And because we can't control the market, because we can't control the rate, because we can't control the election, we can't control wars, we can't control so many things, we can control like literally the number of contacts we make and the appointments we set. And what would your life look like if you set an appointment a day? What would your life look like that's if you said, I'm not going to go to bed until I set up a buyer or seller appointment. And so that's my message to my team, which is, at worst case, we overwork and we have an amazing year and we're paranoid for nothing. But I believe that like we really do have to just do the work. It's hard. And there's going to be some people that they're just like, I've talked to a couple of people that have been around as long as me. They're like, I don't know if I have another one in me. I don't know if I can do this again. And it's kind of like, fasten your seatbelt. This is work. We know how to do it. And like I said, a good recession these activities are not only going to set us up, but many agents are leaving the market. That's also in the vision speech. And so because they're leaving, we're going to have more business with fewer people fighting for that business, as long as we're standing on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody missed the vision, it's recorded. You can get it on KW Connect. And so are the slides. So thank you for bringing perspective to that as well. Teri, what about you? I know you and I have had a chance to talk about some of the things you took away, but what were your favorite sessions, or what were some of the implementable things that you took away from Family Reunion?
Well, as much as I love Tony Robbins, I think I got more out of Mel Robbins.
No relation, by the way, for anybody
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
They're not related.
Just really odd that they both happened to show up at the same family reunion. So I really loved Mel Robbins and the whole idea of not letting that negative thoughts come into your mind when you're thinking of doing something. You just cut them out and just say, I'm doing it, kind of thing. And that's something that we have a team meeting coming up next week. And that's something we're going to be talking about and reading the 5-second rule together, because we always pick a book to read. What I really loved about her was that she shared her challenges, which is hard for people to share in front of 20,000 people, all the things that were so difficult. But it makes me think that part of this market that we're heading into or we're at is going to be helping people with things that aren't as comfortable for people as just being excited about buying a house. We're going to have people that need to get out of a house and may not be able to. I'm doing a deal right now in a smaller town up north, and they bought a house in 2021, and we can't get the price point to be able to pay it off without them bringing money in. And so, we're working hard to try and do that. And I just realized that we're going to see some of this stuff, maybe not right here where I am in Eugene, but some of the more rural towns are going to have those kind of problems. And people are going to have problems with not being able to afford to move up, or, trying to be able to sell. And it's going to be a really tight balance between what they sell for and what they can afford to buy and all of that. So I feel like we really are coming into a time where we do need to listen and be there, like she was when she was talking with that one gal. But it's going to be more paying attention, listening, and hand-holding kind of thing. And that's sort of my favorite part. I love getting to know my clients, and so, you know, it seems it's like knowing that, you know, my job is to sell real estate, but truly my job is to become that right hand to my buyer or my seller and know what they need and, you know, take care of them so that it can be the most positive experience, but also get them through the hard parts. And I feel like that's what coming from contribution and treating clients like family is to be there for them, to help people through things and not just do the job. There's a lot more to it. So
I love that. Lean in right now.
yeah, they're going to need us. So if you're somebody who really can listen and wants to help pass the paperwork, this is your time to shine, I think.
I love
So,
that. So, okay, time for one more question. And I would love to hear from the four of you guys, either something like you want to implement that you haven't yet, or like maybe you've taken that 5-second rule and you've applied it in your business or in your life and how it's worked, or last words or something you want to make sure that this group gets to take away from family reunion that you got to take away from family reunion. So Mary, we'll start with you. What's one last thing you'd like to share?
Okay, so one thing that I've avoided sometimes is like social media. So just Rory Vaden was also talking about brand, your personal brand and how it matters so much. And so just being very intentional about what I'm putting on social media and having a plan for it. And so another thing is more video content. So you guys, we probably all have YouTube channels. They're probably dusty. So all of our clients could get some really good nuggets from us on that. So, and it's going to help your personal brand.
Yeah, I mean, especially with all this content we just heard from family reunion or every session we attend and are learning, like make a video about it. Like you could be that expert, take that information. That's awesome. I had an aha just now from that. Thank you. Dana, what about you? One more thing.
One of the things that Tony had us do was change our state. And you can use that anytime you're around somebody that's bringing you down. You can just turn around and re-energize and be able to bring your best self to a situation. So that was one of the big takeaways for me.
Yeah, Dana, one of the things I took away from Tony in him talking about your energy and your state was, well, one, the way you walk into something. Like, what do you tell yourself right before you walk into something to be the person that you need to be in that situation? Like, what do you need to think about? What do you need to, like music you need to put on if you need to pump yourself up? And when he said that on average, people's energy is about a 6. And then he said, do you want to be in business with a 6? Do you want to date a 6? And all of a sudden I got this feeling inside like, ew, I don't like 6s. So you're in control of that, right? Like you get to control what energy you bring to a situation and how much or how little, or good energy or bad energy. And so I wrote in my notes, don't be a 6. So I love that you said that, because that change your state. It's important how you show up. Thank you. Sarita, what about you? One last thing.
So for me, I've had a limiting belief about recruiting. I used to think that I don't want to bring too many team members on my team because I'm not going to have enough business for them. I actually went to a lot of the databases classes too. And I realized that we have a really healthy database and that we don't have a leads problem. We kind of have a people problem. We don't have enough people. So I just recently hired someone, and I'm definitely making myself uncomfortable by having more and more conversations with people who may want to join me. So that I feel like I just have to do it, right? Like I can't kind of wait for perfect. I just have to do it. The other thing, my takeaway, it's not a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I forgot to mention it, is and Katie, you didn't pay me to say this, but after I learned more about just the settlement from the lawsuit and what Gary did for our company, there's no other place I'd rather be. There's 3 companies that have settled. It's retroactive for like 4 years. And it makes us not worry about the things, again, we can't control, and really just focus on our people. So I'm thankful for that. And for anyone who's not using buyer broker agreements, like we always have been and we always will. But if you haven't, like being able to articulate your value and talk about how we get paid, like, you just have to make that a habit, and we're grateful we always have, and we're just continuing to do that.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Yeah, I did not pay you, sorry to say that, but thank you for saying that. There is some security in being with this company because Gary has taken a stand and paid for us to not have to worry about lawsuits in the future. People want to be on your team, Sarita. Stop being scared about that.
Get over it. Just do
Get
it.
over it,
5,
girlfriend.
4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4,
Yeah,
3, 2, 1.
exactly. Teri, take us home. What's one last thing you want to share with the group?
Well, I was blessed to listen to Mo 3 or 4 times while I was there. And I think what I take away is that, you know, this is a business and we do it well. But what I love about my team and I love about my job is that there's heart involved. And this is about relationship and doing the right thing. And all of that comes from with Keller Williams, from Mo Anderson, and the way she looks at things, the way she gives all of everything she's got as far as heart and time and personal finances even. And that's why I joined KW, was that I loved that this was more than just the paperwork. It was about being a good person and helping everyone we can help. So that's my takeaway, is to remember that this is about heart.
This is about heart. And just like Family Reunion ends with our inspirational morning and the culture of KW and the heart of KW, I think it's perfect that we end with Teri talking about the heart of our business and that we are those people for our clients. So thank you, Mary and Dana and Sarita and Teri, for being here. And thank you for sharing your takeaways and putting in the steps at Family Reunion so we could learn from you today. Thank you for everybody for being on the call today. And I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.